This is Andrej, co-founder of Lumos. They've raised over $65 million from A16Z and angels like OpenAI's Greg Brockman to build the first unified access platform for the enterprise. And they just made the Forbes list for one of America's best startup employers. Today we're sitting down with him in San Francisco to give you behind the scenes look. Let's go.
Andrej, what's up? Good to see you here in the Zap. How was your day?
It was good. I was running around, but I'm here. I'm actually happy. Thanks for being here.
And you also traveled a bit in the last few weeks.
Yes,
What's going on?
I went to Austin, Denver. I went to Miami, but I still like San Francisco the most. It feels home.
Right now we're in your epic office in the middle of San Francisco. Can you show us around? What's happening here?
Yeah, honestly, like it's it's end of the day, so not much is happening. So we have a couple of office rooms in here. This is like our crazy room where we just like, hello, you can scream here. Woo!
So here are the angry meetings.
When you're angry, you like and everyone hears it. So this is our energy room. And yeah, we're all kind of sitting around here. You see like there are cans to stabilize.
Proper startup vibe.
To stabilize it. There's like, we go to a kickoff. So we have offsites every 4 months, even more frequently. And this one was in Miami. No, sorry, in Cancun. In Cancun, having fun.
And you also spread across the US a bit, not everyone is SF.
Yeah, we are all over. We were founded during COVID, and so our thing is we have base here, and we come here for offsites, but we believe in a hybrid culture, and so how we make this work is through offsites once every 3-4 months, and we spend a lot of money on those. It's similar to your parents. When you saw them every day, you're like kind of annoyed at them, but then when you see your parents once every 3 months, 4 months, it becomes special. We make these things very special. We have like a culture lead, person that's dedicated to create a great experience, because once people get out of it, they have so much energy, just like busting their asses. So I have a hot take on in-person culture. Many people say it's important. I would say it is important, especially for some core team members, but like for the broader team, especially when you have a lot of sales, I believe in the hybrid culture. Yeah. That's my hot take.
No, I actually agree. With the thing also we're doing now, the core people need to be in the same room. I mean, this is where ideas flow, where you just have this idea and then the person let's do it this way, and all of a sudden there's this energy and this shared sense of mission. Yeah. And then for individual contributors on the product side and salespeople, it's not a must, but still having these offsets is important. When is the next one?
Next one is in a month, beginning of June. Some people will be in Austin, some people in Chicago, some people in San Francisco.
Awesome,
so it's
cool.
gonna be fun. Here is our we have a lot of stuff. I'm not even sure what we have in here. Is we have our bottles in here and all that type of stuff. We have our treadmill in here. I think we're just getting ready for the offsite. A lot of things are coming, and this is where we have our board meetings. And so this is where we sit down and just work and talk.
That's it. How often do you have board meetings? Every quarter, right?
Yeah, every quarter.
How many people are on your board?
It's me, we have 3 board members. Andreessen Horowitz is one investor. So Peter Levine, he used to be the board member of GitHub, or also invested in Figma. He's super cool. Then we have Ariel, he's the founder, partner at Scale Venture Partners. He's very much a cyber investor, invested in a lot of great cyber companies. And we have an independent board member called Jim Flagging. He's sitting on 20 cyber boards, and he knows everyone, because we're in cybersecurity. He knows everyone in that community. So we have kind of a great mix of a VC with cyber background, A16Z a great VC with great exits, and then a dedicated cyber board member, and me, and that's kind of a nice group of people.
All right, after a great take from Chris, we changed seats, so you look even better with the light.
So that's good?
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Perfect.
Nice.
In terms of board meetings, I am also now part of my old startup where we do some board meetings, and I kind of talk to a few people here and there, and I feel like there's 2 ways you can run those meetings. Some people are super over prepared, and it's more like a show that you put on. The other ones are really saying hey, these are the problems, let's solve them together now with your brains. What approach are you taking?
It also changed over time, to be honest. At the beginning, it was pretty much, hey, here's what's up, and the board supported us kind of solving this. Right now, we got kind of more mature. We're 125 people, and board meetings are actually a great OKR process, where we actually it's kind of a forcing mechanism for us to look at all the numbers and see what's going well and what's not going well, and actually preparing well for it, because you can't bullshit yourself anymore. Whereas at the beginning, you just all you care about is find product market fit. That's all you cared about. We just want to grow revenue and people. And right now we need to retain customers. We need to kind of retain people. We need to there's more to it. And so I actually like it as an OKR process. So we try to prepare well for it.
Which stage did you like more, personally?
Honestly, like you might kind of not agree with this, but like I'm having more fun the more I'm going into it. Here's why. I feel like we got better at hiring people. So our culture just got stronger. So we got people on board that actually are not just culture fits, but culture additions. So I've been never more in love with the people I have around. And the more people you have around, the better it is. We are still 125 people. You still know everyone. I'm interviewing still everyone. And especially now with agents becoming a big thing in the last year, like you're like a baby again, just like a small kid, just exploring the world, understanding the world. So honestly, I'm having the most fun right now. Very honestly.
I want to talk later also a bit more about actually your whole journey from grew up in Germany, just like me. We're the Germans in SF right now, like going through the city, meeting cool people. But now you raised your Series B, like I think 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yeah.
You grew this company, now the things really changed, and I want to really dissect this step by step and go into that. But first, maybe we complete the little tour and then find a good spot to sit down.
Let's do it. Where I sit is like back there, like I'm in the corner.
Show us where the magic is happening.
Yeah, the magic is. This is, by the way, Riley.
Riley,
she's our sales king.
Sales king.
Queen. Sorry. Yeah. So Riley, tell us where you're coming from.
Where am I coming from?
Yeah.
Where do I hail from? I hail from the Bay Area. But Andrej scooped me up, 3.5 years ago?
3.5 years ago, yeah.
And we've been working ever since. 6 a.m. in the morning, calls with Finland, all over
like
the place.
she's like literally, that's what I mean, like she's the culture of Lumos, that like, like energy, do whatever it takes. But then also what's important is many startups are like harder mode, but it's not just that, it's also like, hey, smiling, levity. Like, when shit gets hard, you don't get through hardship by saying like, work hard. You get through shit hard by saying like, I got you, right? Or you got me. And you can only build trust over time with a lot of these moments. And I think Riley's doing a good job when it comes to that. She's actually bringing the whole company together. Especially in sales, you can be very, like, I just care about my number. I just need to close my deals. But she's like, kind of like, let me help each other. So for example, we had a manager change and like one person needed a manager. She just stepped in and said, let me take care of this person and make sure that she succeeds. So that's Riley.
It's a team sport.
Yeah.
It's a team sport.
Yeah.
It is a team sport.
I know.
Thank you, Riley.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. You're 29 and you're now running a company with more than 100 people.
Yeah.
You raised from some of the best VCs in the world. Like A16Z is something a name many founders dream of. Obviously, there was a journey in your life to kind of get to this point from growing up in Germany. Like, what's that story?
I think the biggest story is consistency. Like in school, I always had good grades, but never the best grades. Right, and what I learned from my parents, who they are Croatians and immigrants in Germany. My mom was a nurse, my dad was a mechanic. They always said like, hey, put in the work, just be consistent, and it compounds. It was really amazing. It was like the biggest blessing I've gotten from them is an hour more than, you don't need to kind of work till midnight, right? Do an hour more. An hour more over 2, 3, 5, 10 years, freaking compounds. And that always stuck with me. Summer break happened, I opened my Latin book, 1 hour every day during the summer break. I think that's what just like happened also like with startups. My first startup was when I was 15. We did event management. Then when I was 18, I did a social enterprise in Uganda. Then another with 19. Then I did a government tech company when I was 21, which got acquired by the German White House, the German Federal Chancellery, Bundeskanzleramt. And you see like, you just like keep going, and it just like compounds and your muscles grow and you become powerful. And so I don't believe in luck. I believe just like in consistency, and at some point you get lucky.
Very motivational words. People should listen, When did you start Lumos? And how was this founding story? Like how?
Yeah, we started Lumos. I mean, Lumos went through a lot of iterations. We started officially when COVID started in 2020. We went out of stealth only mid-2022. It took us 2.5 years to actually launch the actual product. COVID happened, we were bored. I was at Stanford at that point with my 2 co-founders, and we started hacking. And then we were thinking about, what access do I actually have as a consumer? Because they have my data. My data is everywhere. I want to know what access I have. So we did a lot of interviews, and then suddenly one said, like, I work in security. I want to know that for my company, not for myself. And so we just stumbled upon it by starting to hack in our dorm rooms when COVID hit.
Cool. Typical story. What were the first things you built? Were like a few different things you were building, and then one thing stuck? Like, what was that like?
So it's kind of hard. So first of all, when we met Andrej Horowitz for the first time, Joel De La Garza, he was like, oh, interesting what you do here. I don't really care about the idea, but you have an interesting mind. Let me introduce you to 4 people. I was like, wait, what I just presented to you is like a piece of crap. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Why do you want me to introduce me to the security officer at Uber, security officer at LinkedIn, It's like, you'll figure it out. So it's very paid forward. And then honestly, like I had like 30 interviews a week. And once you have 30 interviews a week over like 2 years, that is like hours and hours of just like my ML mechanism in here put things together, and things just like pop up sometimes in that way. And then when first customers say, wow, this is awesome, and it works, and they want more, and you feel some pull, then you know like you stumbled upon something. And it took us, for example, 2.5 years.
And then from the moment you found your initial, let's say, inspiration, resonance in the market or with the people you were talking to that you were chasing, what happened then? Like, did you raise your first proper round then? Was it already before?
So we raised our Series A. So Andreessen Horowitz and Neo, invested us in the seed, and that's when you usually just invest in the team. But then only in the Series A that we had some revenue and subtraction. Here's the reality though, product market fit is never achieved. You always chase it, especially now with the AI agents.
It's a process, not a certain state.
Exactly, especially now with AI agents. Like a new model comes up, it's more powerful, and suddenly you're obsolete. It's crazy, like that's the crazy part, is like you can never stop. And so that's kind of a learning, is when people say we have product market fit right now, but probably not in 6 months from now, unless you kind of keep going and keep uncovering things. That's actually quite exhausting for many people. I mean, startups is like freaking sport. Like you actually have to be an athlete. Silicon Valley changed a lot in the last 10 years. 10 years ago, people were drinking right now during the office, they were just like partying, like things happened, like it's actually crazy stuff. But the more top performers came and started companies, the more you adapted. And suddenly you just cared about not eating, carbs during the day because you're gonna be tired, having enough sleep. People used to say like, oh yeah, let me just sleep 5 hours. Reality is if you do that, you're just not gonna be creative. So you actually use your body as an athlete right now. And that is actually pretty special because I used to play soccer in the past and I always wanted to become a professional soccer player. Wasn't good enough, but being an athlete in the most competitive arena in the world, which is capitalism, which is Silicon Valley, you feel excited to be around those great people.
The other week we talked with Christoph Wittig, who's the founder of Hornet, like a consumer app.
Yeah.
And the thing he shared is he read a book called Endurance.
Yeah.
And he drew the connection from endurance in like athletic sense to company building. And this was his value, for example, that he always lived by, that kind of put him where he is today.
What's your take on that?
I mean, you need endurance, but you need to also learn and adapt.
Yeah.
If you just keep pursuing a thing that is not working, you will be frustrated, you'll run out of money, you will waste years of your life not making anything that people want. I think you need to have endurance for the long run, and for your vision as a founder to kind of, I will create something one day. Might not be your first company, your second, your third, but you need to have endurance for the whole journey.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I think you need to have the ability to pause, reflect.
And that's really hard, right? Saying no to something that you're so attached to is so hard, but it's the reality. I have so many friends, that the hardest part about entrepreneurship is endurance, but also saying no to the things that actually won't work in the long term. And that's painful. Some people need like 6 months for that. Some people need 10 years for that. And that's a beautiful thing. I was at Stanford Business School. I took a class. The class was about like which founders are successful. What types of shapes of founders are successful? And the lecturer brought in different people. No correlation. 1 founder, 5 founders. 21 years old, 54 years old. Black, blue, green, yellow. Women, men. Turns out the people that are founders, what you said is like they have drive, they have endurance, they have curiosity. But who you are and what age you are, how often you failed, has nothing to do with how successful you'll be moving forward.
Also, actually riffing on that point a bit, people often, I think, chase to replicate the side effects of someone who's done it in a given way.
Yeah.
Try to just copy it and it must work for me.
Yeah.
But what I always figured out, it's your unique path actually.
Yeah.
Like it's so situational to kind of the context you're in, the thing you're doing, like where you are, who you are as a person. And that's actually bad pursuit. I think you need to really go in there and figure it out from first principles in a way.
Creativity is hard, right? Like what did you learn about creativity building your companies?
To me, it's everything actually. The moment I had an idea, for example, what we're doing now, sort of like an inspiration, right? This is obviously influenced by everything I've done in the past, from people I met, from the news I watch, maybe from the posts I read on Act. This is always, I think, this constant conversation between me and the universe, the world, whatever you want to call it, right? And this to me is the way, it's not like a skill. Creativity to me is a way of being.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
What I find interesting about creativity is I often look at piano versus jazz. I do think in order to be extremely creative, you need to know the basics. That's why going back to consistency again, consistency matters. If you know how to sell, if you know how to interview, if you know how to ask questions, those are just like basics that you need to know and they need to be on autopilot. Sometimes, you need to be patient with yourself to actually get there. And I think then creativity comes once you know how to know piano, something like, What about this? What about that? Then your mind space doesn't focus anymore to play piano, but your mind space focuses on the beyond. That's what my attitude for anything new is. Wow, I'm embracing it, because like I know that my muscle is not used to that. You probably notice when you work out and you work out a new muscle for the first time, it fucking hurts the next day. But then you work it out like 10 times, you're like, wait, it doesn't hurt, but it's still growing. And whenever my muscle hurts, when I feel uncomfortable, like my mind muscle hurts, I actually try to lean in, because that actually tells me I'm actually building a muscle there, and that will actually lead me to creativity after the fact. Does it make sense at all?
100%. Yeah. To me, I write a lot. And to me, my writing practice is like practice. It's like practice in the gym.
Yes.
And it's the thing true for everything.
You need to get it out every day.
And also, it's fine if your first things are shitty, if your first version is shitty. Like, you also train the muscle of building a good product. Like, everything is basically practice in that sense, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes that's the sad thing, not the sad thing, but it's just the reality of us as humans. We love exceptionalism. And then seeing a person that became a YouTube star by posting the first YouTube video, looks like, man, I shouldn't even get started because I didn't get it. But where I think the vast majority of 99% is actually they've put in work over 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Still things happen. I mean, like, think about Notion. Notion was around for 6 years until it blew up. Replit, probably heard of Replit. They went from $1 million in revenue to $100 million in revenue in like a year and a half. It's crazy. They started in 2016. So for like 7, 8 years, nothing. But again, then on the other side, you need to know when to say no. You know, it's really hard. It's really hard.
And I feel like if people ask, like, okay, what should I do? Like, there's not a formula you can apply and then have that decision.
There is not, and that's kind of the beautiful thing. And that's why you need to just learn to play the piano, but then also listen to your voice and just be proud of listening to it, whatever happens. I think that gives you a lot of peace. And I think that's important in life. Just have peace with your decisions, build relationships along the way, and then whatever happens, happens.
Incredible. Let's go back to Lumos and to the moment you raised your Series A. Like, in what stage was the company? How much revenue did you make? How was the process of raising the Series A?
Series A back in the days, was like 2021. That was like, we just got started with revenue. That was like, pre-COVID ZERP era. So we actually just had probably like 10 customers, closed our Series A then. But then the Series B was different, right? For the Series B, you have to prove repeatability. So what does that repeatability mean? It means that if you bring one more salesperson in, so we're in B2B. B2B is a little bit different than B2B enterprise sales. I consider there are 3 types of companies. There's B2B enterprise sales, there's B2B product-led, and there's B2C. B2C, Snapchat, and all those type of things. B2B product-led is Notion and Asana and all these things. B2B enterprise is like ServiceNow and Snowflake and Wiz and Lumos. So on that side, what's very important for Series B is to prove, can I have like 5, 6, 7 salespeople that all can sell and make money? And that's not easy, because now me as a founder, I can sell. Like everyone can do that. But now make 5, 6, 7 people sell and be successful with it. Because you can't be in every deal. You need to enable them. And you need to trust them because they're smart people. I think Series A wasn't the hard part. Series B became hard because you build a new muscle. So yeah, that was roughly in 2024. And that was fun.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
For someone who doesn't know what Lumos is doing actually, and like how you're serving customers, how does it evolve, what are you doing today? Like, for someone who has no idea about also the enterprise context, maybe in simple words.
I want to start with our mission first. I feel that the biggest progress to humanity is AI right now. Like using AI for anything will help us as humans. I mean, like you see Waymos outside, awesome. But the one thing that can prevent AI from progressing is a loss of trust. If suddenly everyone stops trusting AI, that's gonna decelerate the progress of humanity. The only reason why we could lose trust in AI is a big security breach. Something bad happens. The main way how bad things happen right now is using access. So what does access mean? The main hack right now is you have admin access to a database. A hacker gets you access, and because you have admin access, they download everything from the database and spread it out. For example, there was a hacker group that hacked Striker, 100,000 people. They hacked one account of those 100,000 that had admin access, and they wiped every single computer. Deleted everything on every computer because of one account. So now with agents, they have also access. So it just gets more complicated. So now we don't just need to protect you, we need to protect hundreds of agents, thousands of agents. What Lumos does is we make sure that you and AI agents, so this new workforce of humans and AI agents, get the right access into the right databases, to the right code repositories, into the right invoices quickly so that you can get your job done, but lose it when you don't need it anymore, so then when a hacker comes, they can do bad stuff. So we basically manage access to software and data for companies across humans and AI agents.
So how does this look like technically, or from a product side? Like how do you have a demo? Can you show us a demo? Or
Yeah, I can show you a demo.
actually, let's do a demo, right? Let's go. That's the best part.
Let me bring 1 second. Let me just. Where's my? Here's my laptop. There's different things that you can do with this. So the first thing that you can do is, let's say I want to have access. Okay, so I want to have access to create a report for the board meeting. So I can just say like, hey, I need access to customer data to create a report for the board meeting. So I can ask this, or an AI agent can ask this. Like, so an AI agent, what to do is in the background. So I need additional access because I tried to create a report and I couldn't get that data.
For agents, basically an API call.
API call.
Requested. Yeah.
MCP call. So now our AI, which we call Albus, so Lumos comes from Harry Potter, which is lighten the tip of a magic wand.
Yeah.
So Albus is the wise person, right? Albus Dumbledore. And so as you could see in here, it says like, here's what I'd recommend for the board prep. Analyst prod gives you direct access to customer data in production Snowflake environment. Analyst prod, great. And now, you can, say like, okay, it looks good, perfect, create the access, right? Create it. Now, after, let's say, an hour or 2 hours, I lose that access again once I finish the report. That is kind of one use case.
I mean, also, this one, this quickly. So I'm someone in a company, maybe working in the C-suite or like working in the CEO office, and I need to kind of create this thing. I need access to data instead of me then having it all the time and having this risk that somehow someone gets access to my laptop.
Creating a ServiceNow ticket, etc.
All of this, it just happens like this in a few moments.
It just happens like this. Just thinking about it is like, imagine like an AI agent would have write access into all Salesforce data forever.
Yeah.
Just
dangerous.
Dangerous. I mean, it's extremely dangerous. In fact, Meta, there was a public thing at Meta where someone used OpenClaw or something like that, and they posted into a public group very confidential legal information. And it just can happen like this. Yeah. And that's actually the biggest threat to AI. I think that is the biggest AI security threat.
Like your AI that you built, did you fine tune an existing model? If so, what? Are you disclosing that?
Yeah. So we can. Here's the interesting thing about application AI. The model is only 10% of the work. We use Opus in this case, right? We use Claude. But the hard part is not using Opus for this. The hard part is to know the context of a company. So what does that mean? Imagine you are the person sitting behind this and giving me a recommendation. Imagine you're a smart McKinsey consultant. Let's say that's Claude. How could you recommend to me what the right access is? You don't know what these permissions mean. You don't know what usually people ask for. You don't know what the company policies are. Even though you're like a super smart McKinsey consultant, let's say, you would still, this is your model, your brain, you would still fail. So the hard part is, how do we build context and memory? And so most of the work actually comes in by us uploading customer data, uploading the policies, learning over time what gets approved and denied. And that is the tough part with AI. So AI right now, it's not the model is the simple part. Context engineering and memory engineering is the tough thing.
And it's so close to also what we do every day, right? This is what we spend a lot of time on. It's sort of like what is just front-end engineering or front-end, building a few years ago. Like this is like a new platform you build upon. A lot of people sometimes just say like, you're not a true AI company, you're just using this. Like, why do you even exist? Like, Anthropic could do it whatsoever, right? You see it in so many instances of companies who are dabbling in the space. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Great. Yeah, so I actually thought a lot about that. It's like, what's your moat in an environment where intelligence is like electricity? So imagine intelligence is like a tap. You can just get intelligence. What can your moat be in that case? I looked at 3 things in this case. The first thing is this a problem that needs very specific company knowledge and company context to be solved? So for example, customer support. There's a lot of Sierra and Decagon, big companies. Why don't they use just Claude? Because the company has certain policies. If they ask this, issue a refund. If they ask that, don't issue a refund. So there's a lot of company context necessary to answer the question. Another good example is cybersecurity. Is this allowed? Maybe in a retail company that doesn't care about cyber, that's allowed. But in a bank, that's not allowed. So it's very specific to the company. So that's one area. Is like, did you find a problem that needs a lot of context that you can't find in the public internet? And the other thing that I also often like is like, what is a product that actually helps AI progress? How can you work on something where AI actually thrives through it? So at Lumos, we are literally helping protect AI. In Claude, protecting itself is like not easy. So those are the 2 areas and moat, conversations I would have.
You got my interest with one thing. I'm thinking a lot about, are we building for the human user or for the agent user?
Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's the second thing.
How
Exactly.
did this shift for you? Or like, did it shift? Like,
It's both
what's
for
this?
us. It's both for us. So we believe that the new workforce is humans and AI agents at the same time. But like some people might just build for the agent, and that's fine. But it's a new user. So you need to empathize with a new type of user. Think about it. The agent is different than the human. The human, for example, human access in our example is less scary than agent access, because a human wouldn't just delete all of your data, because they would be accountable, they would be sued, they would be whatever. Whereas an agent, like, oh, I dropped your database, sorry. How do you police that? So I love what you just said. It's number one, what's company specific context? And number two, how do you build something for the user called AI agent? And what needs does the user AI agent have? Isn't that cool? You could actually communicate and ask Claude, what needs do you have? And how can I build a system around that?
Well, it's funny, a few months ago we were in Cape Town and kind of in the early days of Open Company, what we're doing now, right?
Yeah.
Just prototyping, hacking on a few things. And one night where I was talking to Claude, like, what do you need?
Yeah.
What platform would you like to do to get real work done? And I actually had such a long conversation where so many insights.
Is that how your idea came from a little
It
bit?
was part of the exploration, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where also something shifted in my mind. Like, yes.
How do you
in
think
the
about
end,
moats?
It really depends on the stage. Firstly, I think most people are talking about moats. They don't even really know what they mean.
Yeah.
Because if I talk about moat, I need to define it. Like, how defensible is your revenue down the line? You're competitive. It's really competitive. You need to have an advantage. You need to be differentiated in a way. And this is what we then call moat. And there's many ways to do it. For example, we focus a lot on content, right? And I think content can even be a differentiator.
A brand is a differentiator.
brand, exactly.
Actually, we forgot that.
Yeah.
Brand is probably the biggest differentiator.
Whatever your answer there is, it also comes down to your personal, who are you as a founder, right? Where's your strong suit in a way? Like, and if we like doing content, for example, like this is a good thing for us to double down on, to do brand building. But you need an answer for that. So this is my thought on moats. In general, this doomsday scenario to say one day everything is wiped out by Cloud or by OpenAI, I think it's not quite true, because as you say, it's utility. I can take an open source model, I can fine tune it for a use case, I can go get customers and make them really happy in some use case. And the truth is, intelligence is quite horizontal in the applications that you can do. However, to really nail workflows right now in the world, that's why we see harnesses. I mean, there is open code, there is AMP, there's factory, all software engineering products basically.
And new jobs
that we
always
use.
come up. Think about this. Imagine I was a spinning jenny and I was making clothing within the spinning jenny. Electricity happened. People say you're going to all lose your jobs. Probably it's true. But like, how many new jobs did electricity create in the first place?
Yeah.
It's like kind of, Schumpeter's creative destruction. You need to destruct to create.
I love how Mark Andreessen also talks about this, because a lot of people ask him, this question, like, oh, aren't jobs going to be gone? And yes, to some extent, but ultimately there's so many economic proof also that this is a fallacy in the way you think about it, right? Fallacy. And it might shift, there might be new jobs emerging as we've seen with the last revolutions or technological changes in society. But yeah, it's a big topic.
I think we won't have enough people to actually fill jobs. I still think that is the bigger problem. But there will be a little bit of period of pain where we need to adapt ourselves. From riding a horse to riding a car, that's an adaptation.
Transition phase.
And that's why curiosity. I think when people ask me, hey, are you a human or a bot? So when people ask me like, hey, how can I become set up for the future? How can I use AI, to do this? And what I often say is your number one skill is adaptability. Because like, think about it. 5 months ago, Opus came out with Claude Code. We suddenly started using AI completely differently. And I think in 6 months from now, things will change again. So the question I'm asking, everyone is like, what are you doing every week? How are you hitting the gym every week to adapt? And are you honest to yourself? And are you actually doing things? Because the reality is probably others are. And you won't be able to lie to yourself. And I think now you have a moment, many people cause fear, do it. Actually, that's an opportunity. You can future-proof yourself and actually increase your market value, both as a founder, as an employee, as a friend, by immersing yourself in it. Yeah, I think it's the biggest opportunity right now to increase your market value. I'm not sure if you agree with that.
I think it actually grows asymmetrically. Like if I just look at engineering, you have these top 1% or 0.1% people who go so crazy in their coding setup, who are not just 10x engineers now, they're probably 100x compared to the average software engineer. Yeah. And this will be rewarded by the market, right? So I feel like this gap between the really capable, adaptable people and the average will accelerate so quickly to grow apart even more, right? This is at least how I think about it, right? We'll see how it turns out. But I want to talk also more about the future. Should we grab a coffee, go for a walk?
Yeah, let's do it.
Nice.
There's like a Starbucks if you want to get a quick Starbucks.
Let's do that, yeah. By the way, guys, look at this. Middle of San Francisco. This is the dream.
Yeah, I like this one as well. Look at the diner. You can't even see it, but internally it looks like very... Actually, that would be cool to sit down in, huh?
Sure.
Wait, let me see.
You go here a lot? Or?
No, first time. Actually,
That's like the
even though it's right next to the office.
Actually, as we're in a retro, historic kind of vibe here, let's switch it up and talk about the future of Lumos. Where you headed in the next few years?
I think we just don't know what's going to happen in the future. We just know that AI will take over more and more of what we're doing right now and will open other kind of opportunities for us. And we want to be known, we want to be a small part of a larger mission. And the larger mission right now is the intelligence movement, where everything is getting intelligent and autonomous. And we want to be known as the cybersecurity company, like the protector of that movement. There will be companies that are, Cursor for coding, Decagon for support. We want to be known as the company that helped the world progress by protecting humans and AI agents from doing the things that they have to do.
What rate are you growing right now? Do you disclose this? Or?
We can't disclose that.
Okay.
But our AI product right now we launched is it actually grew 10x over the last 5 months. So it actually went really fast. Like it's exciting because it's very easy to adopt that stuff, and so it's easier to use it.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of, let's say, 19, 18, 17-year-old kids somewhere in the world who dream of someday also shaping the future in their small ways or big ways, like really contributing to something that they care deeply about.
Yeah.
What would you tell like a kid somewhere in a random city in Germany or like in Europe or in India or wherever on the world, that's watching a conversation like this? What would you tell them to do, like if they're in this stage in their life?
I think what's very important in your 20s, let's say, is to maximize crazy experiences. Because asymmetric risk brings asymmetric gain. So the more you can put yourself in front of situations where your muscle actually grows, the better it is. So for example, for me, I just flew to Africa when I was like 19, right? I was like, freaking hell, I read this book that NGOs don't really work. And I want to kind of work with friends and see how it is. My co-founders still live there now and are doing their thing. Oh yeah, nice.
Thank you.
So my question was, what do you recommend? I always think asymmetric risk brings asymmetric gain. My number one thing in life was screw it, just do it. And so the Africa story is a good one where I just like with 18, my mom didn't even know, 19, my mom didn't even know that I went to Africa, and I flew in there with my friends and good things happened. And my co-founders still live there now and doing good things. But not everything needs to be successful. I think you need to go from a place of like, I want to succeed and I'm going to be angry if I don't succeed, but you need to be patient with yourself. You need to actually look at every failure as a growth opportunity, even if it sucks. The worst thing is kind of getting into burnout because you felt out of control. And the world is just out of control. The number one thing that you can't have is control, right? You can only control your own feelings and how you act, how you react. And I think that's important. Like my advice is do as crazy shit as you can, be curious, but know that you can control only so much, and that's how you feel about things. And then also, like, not everyone needs to be a founder, honestly. Like, hey, I never said, like, I want to start a company. I always want to be a small part of something bigger. I think it's also to know is, like, everyone can find their own ways to fulfill their purpose. You just gotta listen to the world, find your purpose. And what's most important to me is just, like, be with people that I love and have a big mission and work towards that. Because in the end, it's like, do you know who the richest person was, or the most successful person was in 1747? No, no one gives a fuck, right? All you care about is like, hey, did I live in this world and made this world a better place in my ways? And I think that's important.
I resonate with that a lot, and a big part in my life on this journey that also I've been going on, like taking risks, just doing the thing. I always did this, like flying to SF right now with a new company, not really knowing anyone, like this is fun, right? This is just kind of going for it. The big part of my life was also introspection in a way, reflecting, like sensing into what my purpose is. And sometimes these are like very abstract words. However, here in SF, I feel like there's two camps of people. The one that really says like, it's not a thing, just go to the thing and you'll be good. And also some very well-known people who advocate for that. But I feel like there's also another extreme where people are really like winning from within. It's about living a life that you actually enjoy. That's where your contribution comes. Rick Rubin, who kind of says, hey, you kind of live in this universe and it's all a creative act and this is what you should embrace. We're in that kind of, not spectrum, where in this camp are you?
I think I'm like, go for it, take a step back, reflect. Go for it, take a step back, reflect. I think you sometimes just need to go through things, right, and just like go for it. But then you only grow through introspection, in my opinion. How else will you grow? Your muscle only grows when it rests and has the opportunity to kind of form new connections. And so that's kind of that's my thing. I'm not introspecting every night. I'm probably introspecting like once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. What I'm trying to say is like everyone has their own thing. Everyone has their own thing. Some people need to meditate every day for 45 minutes. That gives them purpose and gives them energy. And then some people just need to sleep. You just need to find what's right for you and where you feel the strongest. I think that's that. What's your when do you feel the strongest?
So I actually have, for many years, a very strong spiritual practice in that sense, which is for me just meditation. So this morning, for example, I had an exact routine I follow. I wake up, I go for a walk, 10 minutes, just kind of seeing the world, getting sunlight in a way, right? Then meditating for just 10 minutes, not super long, where I kind of just try to notice thoughts, but really become clear and focused. Then I journal. I really write what's going through my mind. The product we were building right now, like, oh, this is what I learned yesterday, it was still resonating. Oh, how do we position ourselves actually in a value proposition in the market better? I kind of process all of this, dump it on the page, go back into meditation, as long as I find my one thing for the day. I try to always find one thing every day that moves us as a company the most, that has the biggest impact for what we try to accomplish. And sometimes I just sit there for 2 minutes because I immediately know, oh, I need to rework our website because this is kind of our facing thing and our value proposition change and whatever. Sometimes I sit for like 20 minutes because I'm contemplating whether we want to raise a round now with like a few VCs or whether we actually want like some truly aligned person that just writes us a smaller check and we go this route, you know, because there's so many decisions, there's so much noise in this world, also with AI. But I really try to practice this essentialism, less but better approach. And this is the thing I want to find. And this is
I
what
love
do a lot.
essentialism. I love that. Especially also, you know, with TikTok and Instagram and all these things, you're just like always
Bombarded. I don't use my phone also during that time.
Yeah.
The days I start my morning with the phone, the days I'm not as connected with the world, and I feel so easy, I don't feel so flowy in a way, right? Yeah. My best days when I'm like full of energy and excited with the team, you know, with the guys this morning, so like, let's go for a run. It was because I was feeling it after, you know, my morning practice that I was doing. And this time is really me time, and that's the only way I operate, right? But it took me also some time to get there, because I was really influenced from my business studies, where everyone was just work harder on here and just suffer through being an investment banker or whatever. And I had to rediscover my true nature.
How did you figure that out?
It was actually through my first leadership coach. My last company with Benedict, we did our first little pre-seed round, and one of the guys, Björn, who is also now my co-founder in Acta that we're doing, said, hey, I only invest if you guys work with a coach to kind of manage the co-founder relationship. It's an approach I believe in that really helped me a lot, because he went through a lot of shit in his journey of selling his company for 400 million back then. And this started this process for me, because Matthias Müller-Lindenberg, it's a guy in Berlin. He had such a good way to really see you as a full human. I mean, we were still young. I had sometimes struggles to really tell my co-founder Benedict what I was really thinking in the moment, because I didn't want to hurt like feelings, because we were best friends from, you know, an early age. And this kickstarted this process that I discovered there's a different way to be.
I do think you need a person that you can bounce things off. Maybe it's your girlfriend or your boyfriend, or like a friend that you see very frequently, or a coach. But you like, I often thought about like, you know, giving feedback to each other in a company is good, but you only learn sometimes by yourself, by taking a step back and reflecting, and having a person that is almost like the pillar for that is extremely important. For example, even when I go to the gym, like I only started going to the gym because a friend went, and that friend was my pillar for the gym. So your pillar for reflection and improvement was the coach.
100%.
And everyone should find a version of that, because we have brother, sister, anyone. So I actually like that. I liked it a lot, actually.
And so what is interesting on that note, I don't know how deep we want to go, but I realized that process how many beliefs I just adopted from society, from role models, from what other people were talking about, and how little were actually my own beliefs from first principles in a way. To me, especially work as a...
How do you know that your beliefs are now your beliefs, though?
Yeah, fair enough. Probably there is no final answer to that. But I would say they're conscious beliefs now. I inspected them. I checked them. Do I seem they're true or not? You know, and I think there's this domestication going on when you grow up. And at some point you need to have this process and really like inspect every one of them. Like,
I agree
is that me or is it not me?
You need to question them. And then you feel like the most important is like you feel like when you stand up at the day and you feel like I am who I am and I stand myself. And when for example, when you have a certain feeling, let's say you're angry about a certain situation at work, it's okay for you to be angry if you know like, okay, that's my reaction from my body to that situation and I can actually control it. Not controlling that meaning like I am angry because I wanted to, it's just like it happened, but you know like, okay, that's who I am and that's why I did this. And I think understanding yourself is as simple as when there's an extreme reaction that you have to a certain thing, taking a step back and saying like, interesting. Why did this happen? And over time, when you do that multiple times, as you did with your coach, with your meditation, you then suddenly starting to understand who you are and start loving who you are and accepting who you are. And that's actually the foundation for growth, I would say.
I agree. There's an author I was reading a book from. He's called James Hollis. I think it's a psychologist from the US.
Yeah.
He's, I think, very old now these days, but wrote amazing books. And what he says is, you basically have two lives, the one that you're given in the early days, and at some point you figure out who you truly are. You get conscious, you kind of question it. That's like the midlife crisis most people have, and that's where your actual second life starts, right? And this, to me, I found very early, which I was grateful for.
Like in your teens, or when did you find that?
Actually, when I was 14 or so, I started reading a lot of philosophy, psychology. I was
you
super into that
you
stuff.
told me. Yeah, that you got really into psychology.
I think it evolved in over a few years, right? But then I would say ever since the last 3 or 4 years, especially actually when I left my first company, when I realized, oh, this is not me. I thought I wanted to be this founder in Berlin, and like we had customers, we were profitable, or we were growing very fast, had a good product, everything was working, and I realized, oh, that's actually not me. I care more about the craft. I'm the 0 to 1 person. And admitting this to myself, and then having
freeing, huh?
So freeing. But like having parents, friends, people from back in the days, investors questioning you, like, are you leaving the company? It's going so well. Like everything is on the right track. Like, it's not me.
Yeah, and that's you are like in the introspection camp.
Yeah, 100%.
You are. I think it's very powerful. I think like then there are certain people, I would say, like, what's your advice to certain people that so I'm not a sensitive person, so you can throw shit at me and it's gonna be fine. But then some people are very like anxious, insecure, and overthinkers. What's your advice for those types of people?
I cannot break it down to one piece to follow. However, one thing I would point out is a lot of people right now in our generation and society are using introspection as an excuse.
Yeah.
They start to always whine and like, oh no, I don't feel good now. And actually they misuse the power of introspection, what actually comes with that, as an excuse to not do the work or to kind of not get it done or whatever excuse there is.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, the problem also Mark Andreessen was referring to in like the podcast where he said that, right? People misuse it in that sense. So is there one piece of advice where I could say like, oh, you're a bit too anxious, whatever? I would say, well, you need to learn to be really truthful with yourself, because this is where you find everything. But most people, even in a therapy session, they are just role-playing there. They're not truthful to themselves. They're in therapy. They're there because they get attention or whatever. They talk to their person.
You need to challenge yourself.
True to yourself.
You need to challenge yourself. Yeah. So basically what you're saying, like, even if I'm anxious, like, freaking go through that anxiousness and through the anxiety. You gotta fight it and wrestle it. I see what you're saying. And not saying like, oh, let me just like remove that anxiousness and control it. Like, tussle with it.
Be with it.
Yeah.
The definition of courage or being courageous to do something is not that you don't have fear. There is fear, but you still act.
Do it, yeah.
You can let it be there and still do something conscious, right? This is the whole process of being conscious doing meditation. That's the point for me, at least, right? But yeah,
I love that.
It's a nice side quest we went on in the conversation.
Yeah.
But in the team at Open Company in Acta, we practice this a lot. Everyone in our team has a meditation coach, has a coach kind of
really?
taught things.
Wow, that's good.
These had a session this morning, because there's a thing that we're navigating. They have access to this, and every meeting we meditate for 2 to 3 minutes in the beginning to really ground ourselves into it.
Wow.
We have once a week a meditation circle where for 1 hour we just sit. And it's also good self-discipline,
Damn,
sitting
that's
for
like
an hour,
like,
you need to.
Dude, like you're like superstars. I need to actually, honestly, I need to kind of get more into that. What I like is I like writing. Writing is meditative for me. I'm not like a meditation guy, but I'm a writing guy. And when I write things down, especially with Claude, I love it.
It's incredible,
I actually
right?
ask a question and it finds things out. I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's it.
And it's back and forth, and it feels like a true
You can
partner
actually
for your
talk
mind.
with it.
Yeah.
I think I would encourage people to do that. Actually, when you have something on your mind and you don't have a friend you can work with, push it to Claude and ask questions and actually play your own devil's advocate. So, but like, what is this? I don't understand it. Is this wrong?
And what matters though is that you prompt it right. Because if you go there and say like, oh, I feel this and I want this, the model will kind of sweet talk you or whatever. You need to really say like, hey, this is what I want you to really challenge me. Or see where I'm doing the wrong assumptions or where there's a weakness. And this is also the challenge with AI,
scary,
honestly, right? Because we could have wildly different experiences just based on what we have the first 2 sentences say in our prompt to Claude.
That's why we always talked earlier. Context is what matters, right? The intelligence is great, but like for some people, intelligence will be give me comfort. For some people, it will be challenge me. Yeah. And so that's why the more context is necessary, the bigger mode is. It's kind of like a full circle. Oh,
yeah. What a nice conversation. It went a different direction than I thought, but it was cool.
I liked it. And in the end, what we can end with is like why I came to Silicon Valley. What I'm passionate about is what does a high performance team mean? And high performance is like you want to freaking win. But the crazy thing is high performance team are everywhere. My mom was a OR nurse, which means operating room nurse. That is a freaking high performance team. In the operating room, if you make a mistake, you're done. life or death. And so it's super cool to see this. And then I played soccer, that's high performance. Now when you're here, you're like, fuck. You sometimes just like work and want to kind of build something, but like, how do you build high performance? That's what I'm actually obsessed about personally, is how do we bring people together where they actually feel motivated? Because everyone wants to be great. Everyone wants to like do something bigger than themselves. But like telling them like work harder just doesn't work. That's not how you create high performance teams. And so how to build that is a passion of mine, and I actually learned a lot in Silicon Valley about that I didn't learn in Germany before.
Where did you learn that though? Like just trial and error, or did you read like a book or had a mentor or like some person that kind of inspired you in these things?
I think what's interesting about the United States is like it's a big sports culture here. You obsess over LeBron James and Steph Curry and all these great, football players. Also, when you're in sales is kind of high performance. It's kind of like a football type of, mentality. So that's one thing. And the other thing that I learned is like people are extremely smart anywhere. And the reality is like, let's work harder never works. You need to figure out what's the purpose, what's the challenge, what's the problem. And now you're letting them solve a problem. That's like kind of like what I learned early when I started at Lumos is when I said like, we need to get this done. We need to kind of serve this. Never worked. Because it actually makes sense. Like, hey, we need to get this done. Let's be motivated. Let's work hard. That wasn't motivational. What was motivational was like, hey, we don't really know how to deploy AI agents now with our customers. Can you figure it out for 5 customers? And you're gonna meet once a week or once every other week and let me know what you've learned and how much progress you've made. And that's like an open-ended challenge. And then people work hard.
I wrote a blog post a few days ago actually called "Great People Thrive on Ambiguity and Uncertainty." They don't need the exact instructions. Exactly. They thrive on the challenge of figuring it out.
You just need to give them the right context. Yeah. The only thing that also is like, if say, hey, do this, and if they feel like, I don't know how to do it, how can you give them context and help? I think that is important, but otherwise ambiguity is what gets people excited.
What a good conversation. Andrej, thank you so much. It was good. We're gonna enjoy the iced tea.
Yes. Thank you, man.
And we'll link everything below.